Hello, everyone. I'm very happy that you all joined me today. In the next 20 minutes, I will be talking about how different API standards can help you really scale up your APIs and why all the fintech companies should seriously consider using OpenAPI for their API development. First of all, let me quickly introduce myself and then move on to more important stuff. Hi, I'm Aleksei. I'm the head of API at Adyen. You can find me on LinkedIn and on Twitter. And I'm very passionate about API strategy, API design, developer relations, and everything else that leads to great developer experience. And all this seems to be a nice mix with the fintech world. I strongly believe that it's the technology that can really help your financial services to skyrocket. Adyen is a perfect example of that. We are known by our robust payments platform, and let me quickly touch upon this. We've been constantly recognized as the industry leader in the payment space. Here are some examples of that. We're serving enormous number of companies from completely different industries. You see some examples of fantastic brands here that process payments with Adyen, both e-com, mobile, and point of sale. As I mentioned, we operate globally, support more than 200 various local payment methods, have own data centers all over the world, and our platform is growing. We've observed and still observing fantastic growth of our platform, and even in these times, we are able to scale up and support businesses all over the world to overcome the COVID crisis. And probably you already heard Adyen is expanding to Middle East, supporting the momentum of innovation of the business landscape in the Middle East. We opened our office in Dubai. This should enable our existing merchants to get access to the Middle East market, as well as Middle East merchants to get access to our platform and start accessing payments all over the world. And of course, this all couldn't happen without APIs. So the beauty of Adyen platform is that we have APIs from the day one. If we talk about our API landscape, we have 20 plus different web APIs, a lot of different versions of these APIs that we provide and support, and multiple various endpoints specific for different use cases. Of course, this all comes with great responsibility and brings a lot of challenges every day. Here you can see I'm talking about reliability, performance, scalability, security, and others. And of course, these all challenges are not new to any company which is building APIs. It just may be the scale that we have at Adyen that is really different. So we learned a lot of things that can help us with the challenges, and many of the solutions are based on different technologies. One of the surprising findings for us was the value that we can bring with using some of the industry standards like OpenAPI that help us improve the quality of our APIs, makes our API decisions faster, and really speed up the development and testing process. And then in the end, this will help you to deliver your products to the market and to be the first one there. By the way, have you heard that the Dutch government recently standardized around OpenAPI specification and adopted this as an accepted standard for API contracts exchange, and the same the UK government is doing. So why OpenAPI and what is OpenAPI? For those who are not familiar with OpenAPI, also it was formerly known as Swagger, is a standard format to describe different web APIs, mostly HTTP APIs. It's important to mention that it's both human readable and machine readable. I will come back to this later. And then in general, this specification contains information about your API, about your endpoints, about different HTTP verbs that are being used, different parameters required for this operation, all the schemas for requests, for responses, authentication information, and maybe some other additional details that are required, like contact information, license, terms of use, and so on. So here are some examples how this OpenAPI can look like. It's important to know that it can be distributed in two different formats, JSON and YAML, and here you can see the basic information about some of the APIs that we have. Then again, why OpenAPI? First of all, it's quite mature format. So it's existing from 2010. It's supported by the OpenAPI initiatives. A lot of smart folks are working on that and evolving the standard. It's open source, and we see that new versions are coming soon, really improving the way how we can describe APIs. And then other popular formats recently joined the initiative, which means that now we have more or less one standard way of describing web APIs. Of course, there are other initiatives and other alternative formats, but OpenAPI is de facto the most popular standard as far as I know. And here are also some names of the companies that are supporting this initiative and working towards improving this standard. So let's think and discuss different use cases, how OpenAPI can be used for your development, for the technology, for your APIs. And this is what we saw at Adyen. So first of all is documentation. For every API, it's important to have up-to-date, accurate, and comprehensive documentation. And with Swagger OpenAPI, you can easily achieve that. And it doesn't matter if you first start with code and then generate OpenAPI from that, or you already have an API design where all the documentation is already stored within your design. Once you have this within OpenAPI, you can use a wide variety of different tools to generate a documentation portal, to show reference information, and also different examples. For instance, at Adyen, we have our own home built API Explorer, where you can see information about different APIs, different versions, and also all the examples. Here you can also see the run button, where you can try different examples and see the result, which is very popular use case for developers who want to learn about your APIs. Then it's important to recognize that this format is both human readable and machine readable, which means that you can do much more with that. For example, another popular way of using OpenAPI files is to generate libraries, or at least some object models for the libraries in different programming languages. For example, at Adyen, we open source different server-side libraries, Java, PHP, Node.js, and others. And for many of them, we use OpenAPI files to generate models, which really speeds up the process. Another use case and another way for looking at OpenAPI files is to treat them as an API contract. Because in the file itself, you have all the information about your API, what it can do, what it cannot do. And this is also something that you can just share with your customers, with your API consumers. We do this with GitHub. We just have all our OpenAPI files freely accessible in a public GitHub repository. And then this means that merchants can access it, they can view it, they can compare different versions, they can make some judgment on the API, and then they provide the feedback back to us if necessary. And this becomes a very good way of exchanging information about your API, because it's standard and it's known by a lot of different tools. So it's quite an easy way to distribute information about your API contracts. Of course, it's important to mention that now there are a lot of tools that support OpenAPI format, can read it, and can do something with that. For example, one of the most popular tools in the API development space, Postman, it supports importing OpenAPI files into it, so you can easily open it there, and then you already have a predefined collection with all the different endpoints with some basic documentation where you can, again, provide your credentials and try requests and get responses and export your APIs. This greatly improves the developer experience. And there are some other tools that also work with that. For example, if you're adopting API design in your organization to make sure that your API is consistent and you always ensure the high quality of your API decisions, you can consider using different API design tools. Some of them that I mentioned here, Stoplight and Swagger Hub, they're all based on OpenAPI. For example, with Stoplight, you can see this visual designer where you can add different APIs, different information about your endpoints, and easily create a mock of your API. But under the hood, if you switch to code, you see that this is still the OpenAPI format. So basically with Stoplight, you don't need to know about the OpenAPI standard itself. You design it with a visual designer. but under the hood, it's still stored as OpenAPI, and you can benefit from all the other things related to that fact. For example, if you have your OpenAPI files for all your APIs, you can also implement something like automated linting. This is super helpful for organizations that think about the API style guide. They want to make sure that all the APIs are consistent and use the same approaches and never surprise API consumers. So in this case, you can have a document with, for example, 125 different API rules in your style guide. But it's super crucial if you can automate a lot of things, and there is tooling like Spectral where you can write down these rules and then run it in a continuous integration job, and then everything is there. And this is again around the OpenAPI format. For example, here you can see some instances where some rules are broken or there are warnings about deviation from some of the recommendations of the API style guide. Another way to look at OpenAPI files is how you actually develop your API. And what's super helpful at what many organizations are adopting is separation of your front-end and back-end development work. And in this case, if you already have your API design ready, then you can generate server mocks, which really speeds up your front-end development. They don't need to wait for the backend to be ready. And you can work on this simultaneously. And then if you need to change your backend, you just change the OpenAPI contract itself. And then you can quickly regenerate your server mocks and continue with the front-end development. And there are other things where OpenAPI files can be helpful. For example, API monitoring and landscaping. This is what we're also trying to use at Adyen. And the bonus here is that with OpenAPI files, you can actually store much more. So you can store any custom information that might be required for your API development processes or might be required for API consumers. And you use custom extensions like here, for example, we see information about deprecated fields and deprecated versions. So basically, this helps you with API evolution and with changing your API over time, also making sure that all your API consumers are informed of these changes within the OpenAPI file itself. So basically, if you look at different development phases of the API lifecycle, design, development, documenting, publishing, and evolving, OpenAPI is proved to be useful on any of these phases. The main takeaways here is that, as I mentioned, OpenAPI files, OpenAPI standard can bring value on any stage of your API development lifecycle. And if you are thinking about expanding the opportunities of your fintech organization, and if you see that this can be done with APIs, so I definitely recommend you building your stack around that. In general, I feel that OpenAPI deserves to become a standard way of exchanging API contracts in the fintech industry. We know that fintech is a big driver for many technology changes nowadays, and there are also standards like PSD2 and others that change the way how we build different products and how we expose them through APIs. And we already saw examples how OpenAPI can be useful. So I think everybody should use it more and bring it to the next level. Thank you very much. I hope you found this useful. If you want to contact me to talk about this or other topics to learn more about Adyen, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Have a good day.